Long before the chiefs approached the crossroads of Oru, before Aziz's shadow had ever touched the earth, the land itself knew that this night would come. The sky tore open like a bleeding wound, and a red glow spilled across the forests, rivers, and mountains. The world held its breath. In the villages, women fell to their knees, clasping their children, pressing their foreheads to the dust of the earth. Their hands, blackened with soot from cooking fires, trembled as they lifted beads, cowries, and charms to the sky. Spirits of our ancestors, hear us, protect us. They cried, voices cracking, rising above the wailing wind. Their children clung to them, eyes wide, trembling, small hands clutching at skirts and beads. The cries of the little ones pierced the night, a chorus of fear and innocence. Every child's heartbeat seemed to echo the pulse of the earth itself. But the forest was restless. From the deep canopies, faint cries emerged, voices not human. The spirits of long-dead warriors, mothers, and hunters drifted through the air, weeping, calling, murmuring warnings in a language older than words. They have forgotten. They have forgotten. The land weeps, the rivers weep, the mountains weep. From the rivers the water shimmered unnaturally. Tiny ripples formed like hands reaching skyward, grasping for mercy. The animals sensed it, too. Birds fell silent mid-song. Lions crouched, their golden eyes reflecting the sky like molten fire. Antelopes froze mid-step, ears twitching, listening to whispers carried on the wind. Even the insects ceased their buzzing, leaving the night unervingly still, save for the cries of spirits and the women's prayers. The ground itself shivered. Cracks appeared in dry earth where none had been before. Small stones rolled as if pushed by invisible hands. Deep beneath the soil, the veins of the land pulsed like the heartbeat of an ancient giant. A low rumble grew, vibrating through the roots of trees, through the bones of the mountains, through the spines of every living being. And then it spoke not in words, but in feeling. The earth spoke directly to the elders of the villages, carrying the weight of centuries. Choose wisely, the children are afraid. The rivers cry, the forests tremble, the winds whisper of doom. Do not fail. In one village an elder sat atop a carved stone platform, his hands shaking as he grasped the staff of office. The sky reflected in his eyes, red as molten iron. The women's cries rose to a crescendo, mingling with the mournful songs of spirits floating like mist across the land. He closed his eyes and inhaled the heavy, blood-scented air. The ground beneath him pulsed like a living drum, and for the first time he truly felt it, the responsibility of humanity itself resting on his shoulders. The land, the rivers, the mountains, the spirits, they were all watching him, waiting. The other elders gathered around, old men and women whose eyes held centuries of memory. They whispered among themselves, words trembling with fear. The earth itself begs us to act with wisdom. The spirits cry because they know the doom that approaches. We are only the stewards. The destiny is not ours to command, but our choices can shape it. And then a breeze swept through the village. Not a normal wind, but one that carried the scent of iron, rain, and fire. It bent the hut's roofs, rattled doors, and whipped the torches into frantic dance. From the shadows of the forests, faint shapes moved. Figures cloaked in mist, faces indistinct, their bodies transparent yet solid enough to make the hair on the back of the elders' necks rise. The spirits began to wail, a chorus that layered upon itself. Young mothers, warriors, children, and unknown beings whose names had been forgotten. Their wails were sorrowful, warning, almost begging. Do not let the greed of men corrupt what the ancestors have preserved. Do not let power blind you. Do not let ambition destroy unity. Do not fail the children of tomorrow. In that moment the elders could feel the earth's heart beneath their feet, beating faster, thrumming with urgency. Stones cracked, roots of ancient trees twisted. The river that ran beside the village churned unnaturally, water glowing faintly red as if reflecting the bleeding sky. One elder, trembling, lifted his staff toward the heavens. Spirits of the land, guide us. Show us the path. Let our choices be just. Protect us from what is coming. The earth answered with a tremor, gentle at first, then growing, not violent, but insistent, almost pleading. It pressed against their feet, whispered in the bones of their legs, as if to say, hurry, choose wisely. The fate of all rests in the hands of those who dare walk the path. Even the sky seemed to pause. The bleeding horizon pulsed in rhythm with the land, as though counting the final moments before destiny would descend. And then, from far beyond the hills, the faintest echo was heard, a deep, resonant voice, older than any human memory, vibrating through the forests and mountains. The crossroads awaits. The sons of the land must decide, or be decided for. The elders knelt, palms pressed to the earth, heads bowed. They wept, not from fear alone, but from the weight of responsibility. The women's cries softened as sobs, and the spirits' wailing became a murmured chant of hope, fragile yet persistent. The night seemed endless. Each second stretched like a lifetime, every heartbeat echoing across valleys and rivers, carrying the unspoken knowledge that something ancient, something terrible was about to arrive. The land had spoken, the spirits had pleaded, the elders had listened, but the crossroads did not yet reveal its secrets. The journey of ambition and fate before the first torch reached the sacred stones of Or-U, the land itself seemed to breathe with expectation. Mountains exhaled mist that swirled like spirits dancing. Rivers shimmered under the blood-red sky, and the forests whispered in tongues older than man. The 4 chiefs had been chosen by destiny, whether they knew it or not. Each carried not only the hopes of his people, but also the invisible chains of the bargain they were about to make. Dumari of the northern sands, Dumari's journey began in the endless deserts of the north. His feet sank into hot sand, grains like molten gold slipping between his toes. The sun beat down, harsh and relentless, painting the dunes in shimmering waves of light. The wind carried whispers of past wars, voices of men he had defeated, begging him to temper his ambition. The sand itself seemed to resist him, forming strange shapes, ghostly figures of fallen warriors and ancestors, warning, pleading, urging caution. He rode atop a mighty stallion, black as midnight, muscles rippling with every gallop. His army followed, spears glinting in the sky's crimson hue. The desert stretched endlessly, yet every step carried the weight of expectation. At night, Dumari sat alone atop a dune, the campfires below flickering like stars fallen to earth. He raised his hands to the sky, feeling the pulse of the earth beneath him. The sand whispered, "Power devours those who hunger for it alone." He clenched his jaw. Ambition burned in his veins brighter than the sun. The whispers did not deter him, they fueled him. He would rise. He would conquer. He would claim the north. But the shadows moved in the dunes. Invisible eyes followed, ancient spirits watching, testing, laughing softly, knowing that every victory he seized would also plant the seeds of his downfall. Zuberi of the Great Lakes, Zuberi traveled through forests that bordered glittering lakes, their waters so still they mirrored the sky. He walked with the dignity of a king already crowned, beads clinking softly with each step, shells whispering secrets of unseen wealth. The air smelled of rain and earth, but beneath it lingered the faint iron tang of blood, warning him that every treasure gained bore a cost. The reeds along the lakes shivered, revealing shadows that were not fish, not birds, not beasts, but spirits of merchants, thieves and kings long dead. They whispered, "Gold blinds, gold devours, gold will bind you before you bind it." Zuberi's fingers brushed the water. The reflection of his face seemed to flicker into someone else, a man twisted by greed, eyes hollow, a crown of gold fused into his skull. He shook his head and smiled, ignoring the warning. Wealth was his destiny. He would trade, barter, and seize riches until the lakes themselves became mirrors of his empire. Every coin, every shell, every treasure would bow before him. But deep in the shadows, the spirits laughed. The lakes had seen kings rise and fall, and Zuberi's pride would become the first wave of his undoing. Okanga of the eastern forests, Okanga's path twisted through ancient forests, where sunlight barely touched the earth. Trees older than kingdoms loomed, roots gnarled like the hands of sleeping giants. Moss but the voices were layered with temptation. For every warning, a promise shimmered in the air: domination, gold, knowledge. The chiefs were caught in the eternal pull of ambition, their hearts pulled by the dual forces of temptation and conscience. Even before the crossroads appeared, the presence of Azazel was tangible. Shadows moved unnaturally in the periphery of vision. A faint heat, not from the sun, pressed on the air. At night, dreams came to each chief, visions of fire, storm, blood, and power. Dumari dreamt of armies that marched without end, their banners blazing, while a voice whispered, "All that you desire can be yours, but every victory has a price." Zuberi dreamed of golden lakes turning to molten metal in his hands, while the same voice said, "Wealth devours the greedy as easily as it serves them." Okanga saw stars falling, kingdoms crumbling, and the voice told him, "Knowledge blinds the unwise." Watch carefully. Kwabena saw his people starving, cities burning, while the voice whispered, "You will carry what they cannot bear." The visions left them waking in cold sweat, hearts racing, understanding that this journey was more than a physical path, it was a test of their souls. By the time the four chiefs arrived at the crossroads of Oru, the land had already trembled under the weight of prophecy, spirit, and the unseen hand of Azazel. The women's cries, the spirit's wails, and the earth's pleading had prepared the world itself for what was to come. The stage was set, the crossroads waited, the demon waited, and the bargain was about to begin. The crossroads and the bargain. The red sky bled its last light, smearing the horizon like a wound on the face of the world. Across the land, rivers shimmered like molten rubies, forests trembled in uneasy silence, and even the mountains seemed to bow, sensing the approach of destiny. At the ancient crossroads of Oru, where four paths intersected as if laid by the hands of the gods themselves, the four chiefs arrived. Each stepped cautiously, aware that this was no ordinary night, no ordinary crossroads. The air was heavy with anticipation. A low hum vibrated under their feet, faint at first, then rising into a resonance that echoed through bones, through hearts, through the very marrow of the land. And then the fissures opened. Azazel emerges from the cracks of the sacred stones. Smoke rose, curling like serpents. Shapes formed, then solidified into a figure impossibly tall, impossibly thin, with skin blacker than obsidian polished by the river of eternity. His eyes glowed molten, reflecting the red sky, each glance cutting like fire. No sound accompanied his emergence, only presence. The torches carried by the chiefs bent toward him, flames flaring unnaturally, licking at the air as if in recognition of their master. He spoke, and the sound was a knife sliding through silence. Sons of Africa, I have waited. Even the winds paused. The spirits of the land, those who had watched, wept, and whispered warnings for centuries, recoiled in awe. Dumari stepped forward, chest heaving, fingers tightening around the haft of his spear. His heart hammered like the war drums that had defined his life. I am here. For power, he said, voice steady despite the tremor in his bones. Azazel's lips curved in a smile that split the night, cold and sharp. With a single touch to Damari's forehead, thunder rolled not across the sky, but inside Damari's chest, shaking his bones. You shall have power, whispered Azazel, but power hungers, and hunger devours. Instantly, Damari felt energy crackle through his veins. His arms felt like iron. His mind raced with visions of conquest. Kingdoms bowing, deserts tamed, mountains flattened by his armies. Yet the desert whispered warnings. Shadows flickered in the dunes, ghostly figures of fallen warriors murmuring, Hunger devours, power devours. Beware your own ambition. Dumari clenched his jaw, ignoring the whispers. The taste of conquest was sweeter than caution. He was unstoppable, or so he believed. Zuberi stepped forward next, beads clinking with the rhythm of anticipation, shells glittering like trapped starlight. I seek wealth, he said, calm and unwavering. Azazel blew into his hands. Gold dust spiraled, embedding in Zuberi's skin. Coins multiplied in his vision, rivers of gold cascading endlessly. Gold will follow you like a shadow, Azazel whispered. But shadows grow when light dies. Zuberi's mind raced with palaces, treasures, trading. Azazel's voice floated through the still air. As long as the children of Africa repeat the sins of their fathers, power without unity, wealth without compassion, wisdom without humility, Africa will remain in chains forged by its own hands. Then he vanished. Smoke curled into the air. Shadows retreated. Only the trembling stones remained, humming faintly with the echoes of the bargain. In the months that followed, Dumari rose like a storm. His armies marched across deserts. Tribes fell before him. War drums echoed from sunrise to moonfall. But his strength depended on conflict. And when peace finally came, his power drained like water from a cracked pot. His own warriors, once loyal, turned on him. The north descended into ruin. Zuberi's wealth grew beyond imagination. Gold poured into his kingdom. Lakes glittered like mirrors. Foreign traders crossed oceans to kneel at his feet. But greed is a beast that eats its master first. Zuberi taxed the poor into hunger. He enslaved whole villages. He sold even his own cousins to feed his obsession. The gods grew angry. Storms swallowed his ships. The waters that nourished his people dried into dust. Rebellion rose like fire. Okanga's mind expanded faster than any man could bear. He saw the language of stars. He understood the laws of spirits. He predicted every danger, every secret plot, every whisper in the hearts of men. But wisdom without humility is poison. He stopped trusting his advisers. He accused innocents of betrayal. He executed friends for crimes they never thought of committing. His kingdom drowned in fear. Knowledge drove him mad. And far away, Quabana suffered quietly. His land burned with drought. His children died of fevers. His people starved, though he had committed no sin. When the storms hit the north, he felt the pain. When the lakes dried in the east, he felt the ache. When Okonga descended into madness, Quabana felt the weight. His people asked, "Why are we cursed? What have we done?" But the answer was not theirs to know. Years later, broken in spirit and stripped of all glory, the four chiefs found themselves once again at the crossroads of Oru. The night was silent. No wind, no animals. Even the moon seemed afraid to shine. Azazel appeared without sound, no smoke, no fire, just a presence cold enough to freeze breath. "We want our gifts undone," Damari begged. "They have destroyed us." Azazel laughed softly, a laugh that made the earth shiver. "I gave you nothing you did not already carry," he said. "You were powerful, but divided, wealthy, but selfish, wise, but proud, innocent, but burdened by the sins of others." He pointed at the broken men kneeling before him. "Your downfall was inside you long before I arrived." The wind began to blow cold, sharp, filled with sand. Azazel's form began fading into the shadows of the crossroads. But before he vanished completely, he delivered a final warning that is echoed through generations. As long as the children of Africa repeat the sins of their fathers, power without unity, wealth without compassion, wisdom without humility, Africa will remain in chains forged by its own hands. The demon disappeared. The torches reignited. But the land remained silent, as if grieving. The chiefs looked at the four paths stretching before them and realized the bitter truth. They had not bargained with Azazel. They had bargained with themselves. And ever since that night, the spirits say the crossroads still waits for the next generation to either break the ancient bargain or repeat it.